to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Just like there's more to every player, more dedication, more attention to detail. There's more to a Mazda vehicle. Stay tuned later in the episode for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again, diving into mailbag mode. It's a Locked On Texas Tech special edition, the Matador Mob Mailbag. It's upon us and overflowing once again. On today's episode, we'll get to a couple of different subjects as we typically do when we get into the mailbag. I wanted to discuss a question regarding the future of the Big 12 Conference, possible additions still looming out there, and one could be at the Jones on Saturday. I don't know. Wilder things have been considered, I suppose. Also, a question about now that we've got some evidence turned in, heading into week 3 for Tech and most others, games standing out to us in the Big 12 Conference that maybe feel a little bit differently than they did coming into the season. Also, regarding what we want to see this weekend, we've had a whole lot of really enjoyable garbage time just for entertainment's sake and also for tinkering, position battle's sake. But is there a need for some intensity maybe out of some of these 4 quarters Saturday to help best prepare for a conference opener? But I want to kick off the conversation with a question that came from, let me check my notes, everyone and their mother. That's who I'm crediting today. Wanting to know about Romelo Height, a popular topic of conversation over the last 24 to 48 hours. We have an availability report now to consider, Chris. So what do we make of all of this?
Yeah, he's listed as questionable. What I would say is because Romelo is a defensive starter. I feel bad for my man Ben Roberts because he's also a defensive starter and he's also listed questionable. And no fanfare for my man Ben.
Where are the questions? Where are the questions?
And I would argue that you're probably better equipped to have depth at Romelo's spot than you are at some of the interior linebacker spots. But anyway, to each his own. I questionable. I think it could go either way. There's nothing major here. A lot was made out of it yesterday. I think it got everybody kind of freaked out, which is unfortunate. I'll just leave it at that. You could see him. It's not going to surprise me if one or both of these guys are held out just to be safe for this weekend. Not that you are. I know everybody's sensitive to this too, because I got asked a question about Utah the other day. I answered it. I got clipped, and just portions of what I had stated was out there, and then it's like, oh, we're looking past Oregon State. We're all this Utah talk. Nobody's like looking past Oregon State at all. And you would not be holding anybody out because you just can. You're trying to play the long game. You're trying to be smart. Do what's best for the athlete. So if there's a chance and they're not quite 100%, or there's a chance that you could tweak something again or whatever it may be, I think you'll try to be smart, just like it was like you were doing with Barron last week. And I think it came down to it, and you could have beat Kent State by about as many as you would have wanted to, and Barron wouldn't have had to have played, but guys train and they get themselves ready to go and they play football. That's what you do. So I'm
glad you brought up Barron, actually, because I got to tell you, I'd be a little bit more willing to maybe tell Romelo or someone in his position, yeah, we can tap on the brakes this week, as opposed to a quarterback, even an experienced one like Barron Morton, but the new offensive coordinator component versus Mr. Dominate the tackle, kill the quarterback guy. I know it's not that simple, but you get my point. So I think it's an interesting comparison to make, but yeah, you want to be smart. And to me, even think there's a little more slack on the line to do that, say with a pass rusher or one like Romelo Height, or if David Bailey or someone of that ilk was kind of in that same conversation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're kind of in this little like 2-game window here, and then you're going to have a bye week, and obviously you have Oregon State this week and Utah the next. But as it relates to like a pass rusher, he's probably schematically needed more against Oregon State than he would be against Utah. Ben Roberts is probably the opposite. Although you want them both playing, okay? I'm not,
Yes.
It's not kid says you want them both playing all the time as much. But as far as what would be highlighted, Oregon State, they're going to, I think, try to drop back and throw it a ton. And I think Utah, to the flip side, is they're going to try to run it right at you and slow the game down and then sprinkle in some of the passing stuff. So, a lot more opportunities for somebody like Romelo potentially to rush the passer versus Oregon State than Utah. And a lot more opportunities for Ben to do what he's good at and stop the run against Utah versus Oregon State. So we'll just see what we get. But, yeah, I think if I had somebody I know tell me this like 2 or 3 weeks ago, because you could sense, and we're sensing it now. It's kind of playing out in real time. People get real wound up and get they let their emotions, it's like you're kind of riding the highs and the lows of reading something or seeing something or somebody tells you something as it relates to your favorite football program, whether it's Texas Tech or the Dallas Cowboys or whoever, it doesn't matter. And if people knew the in-betweens and all the opportunities, if you knew everything that was going on, it wouldn't be healthy. For you, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be sane. So,
look at us.
Exactly.
We have had to know too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the years, it's piling up, Chris.
Yep.
You may be taking its toll.
Sausage is good. Seeing how it's made is not.
No.
Yeah.
Not all the time, at least. All right. Thank you for that question. Here's an interesting question, I thought, and basically along the same lines from two different mobsters, Ed and Ron, asking about this week 3 test. I think Ed was asking in a way that said, better outcome for this weekend, a closer game that tests us, or a comfortable win, ironing out some kinks. Ron is asking, any chance we could actually use some tightness or intense moments in this week's game before you go to Salt Lake City? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that premise. I don't think you roll into it going, okay, we want your best and we want to suck, and so let's just see let's see how this goes.
See how hard we can make it on ourselves.
Right. If you end up in a game that's contested, late into the third quarter, it's not the worst thing. You're trying to win, and I've said this about this season in general. We're past the JV portion of the schedule. I do think Oregon State is a step up over the previous 2. There's just no way around that. But this is all about just winning. It's not about how, and we can get into man, you looked really good doing it, and all. I think the how becomes if you start talking about the at-large component of the playoff, or the how becomes about, okay, trouble's looming because you can't keep surviving like this, and I would listen to all that stuff, but you just try to figure out to score more than the other guy. And I've said this too, that I'm curious to see what this team looks like when they get punched in the mouth. Will Oregon State be good enough to do that? I don't know. I'll whisper this. Will Utah be good enough to do that? I don't know. We just don't know. And then how do you react? Somebody will, whether it's self-inflicted or it's the opposition or it's the venue or it's the time of day you're playing, I don't know, or it's an injury, how will you handle it? And we don't really know the answer to that yet. But I do think wouldn't be, it's not going to be a bad thing if your starters are playing in the second half in this one, but I do think Oregon State they'll come in here and they have nothing to lose. They've got their big game next week against Oregon. What is that, the Civil War? Is that what one's called? I
believe so.
Yeah, the Civil War. So we'll see. I'll just leave it there. But I get your premise. I think it's a good question, and I like the idea of it. And if you find yourself in that, I think that is something that is a positive that you can glean from it if it ends up being close or contested or whatever. But can we really sit here and say if it's 50-0 in the middle of the third quarter, if that's the way it works out, that's terrible too?
Absolutely not. And that's what I'd prefer.
Yeah.
Honestly, just give yourself the type of context in a game where you can do whatever you want. And then in a blowout, if you're lucky enough to be there, then that's on the coaches to create, I think, intensity in certain situations. And I do think that play callers or coaches over the years in those types of, blowout ball games might toy with a call here or there or some situations. Toy may be the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying? Trying to create some challenges in those moments, or you set different type of goals for your team as compared to what you came into it with. So all that can still kind of play out, I guess, if you're in a lopsided win, but that's on them. I get the question too, and certainly sort of wondering the same thing about, I don't know, the wake-up call you could be in for, whether it was Salt Lake City or anywhere else, just when you hit Big 12 play after this stretch of non-conference games. Thank you for that question. Jack is asking about looking ahead to Big 12 play. Is there a game that stands out to you, maybe you see as tougher or easier compared to preseason expectations? First, today's episode brought to you by Drip Drop. And if you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus or on the job, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, meetings, or more, hydration is where it all starts. And that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration, uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. My family's been going hard on the berry flavor, a game changer on those extra busy days. I've tried electrolyte powders before, but nothing tastes as good or works as fast as Drip Drop. And right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. So just head to dripdrop.com and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. And stock up now and be ready when the heat hits hard with Drip Drop.
I think Houston may be a bit more interesting than we would have thought. They've looked pretty good here, small sample size, but they've looked pretty good here. Their defense hasn't missed a beat. I think they're capable at quarterback. Now, ultimately, are we ready to paint it with a broad brush and say, oh, yeah, this is going to be a nightmare? They're really good. I don't know if we know that yet, but I would say to you that answering the question, I think it looks a bit different now than it did back in early August or July. Yes, I think that's one. West Virginia may end up looking a bit easier. I don't know anything really yet about UCF. They're kind of so off the radar. BYU, you already knew was going to be good. I'm not ready to say yet that like Arizona State or Kansas State are going to be easier than you thought. I'm not playing that game.
I was curious how long it'd take for you to mention them because
I'm not doing that. But we knew this Utah game was going to be a big one and a massive one. And but I think to answer that question, I think Houston would be my answer there. I think that one looks very different than what I would have thought, at least at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that question. This question here about not only, I guess, the visitor this weekend, but maybe others that could come to mind. But a question here from Brent about whether or not you could ever see Oregon State as a Big 12 addition or member.
So Oregon State and Washington State, there's a lot to get into here. I'll try to be quick. Oregon State and Washington State were the two that ultimately got relegated. They got left out. There was no spot for them to go. And they got to keep the Pac-12 name. They got to keep the money that was owed to that conference. And they've kind of tried to recreate the WAC or the Mountain West or whatever. Texas State isn't. I mean, it's just kind of this grab bag of schools. And again, everybody's trying to fight for survival, and they're trying to act like they are. It's still the Power Five, people. Like we are one of those. Would any of those schools, at the drop of a hat, take a bid to the Big 12? 1,000%. I don't get this. I think that you probably knew everything you needed to know about Oregon State and Washington State, and I think you made the decision not to go that route, as did the Big Ten, as did the ACC. I think you could get them anytime you want them. I don't know if they do anything for you. But because here's what everybody's waiting on now, and this is why another shift is coming. Okay, we already know that the ACC has unequal revenue sharing based on TV ratings. We know that the exit fees drop as the years go by. So, like, for example, and I may not be exact on these numbers, but it's close. Like right now, it's 150 million if you leave, but in 5 years, it's only 75 million. A lot of money, but that's half. And which is greasing the wheel for some, folks to maneuver around. But here's what else has come out in the last, say, 2 or 3 days that I think is pertinent. The term unequal revenue sharing, which by all accounts is ultimately what derailed the original form of the Big 12 conference.
Yeah.
Okay. And people got sick of it. Yeah, they got sick of it, and they just didn't think that, whatever. Well, guess who's squawking about it now, and guess who's reporting heavily? These outlets are saying there's no way that the Big Ten won't have this in the next media rights agreement, which I totally understand from afar, because that league, Big Ten, for example, I mean, Oregon's got to say so. Penn State's got to say so. But really, it's been Ohio State and Michigan. But in Indiana, a blip on the radar, and we'll see if there's some sustainability there. But your Purdue's and your Northwesterns and your just keep these along your Iowas. Like, do they deserve? Yeah. Does they deserve all this money that the other folks are generating? And I think that you're going to see the top half say, no. We need to get ours. And how is that? How do we conclude those conversations? Because I think that's where this thing is kind of going. So it's going to cause some sort of shift. Whether the top guys say, okay, we get it, this is the best for the sport, or no, we're going to be greedy, we're taking all we can get, and we know we can get it. And that's there'll be ramifications, but it won't just be that league.
Can I ask you this? If the timing was different, Washington State and Oregon State or Cincinnati UCF?
If you
would
want
it have been a wash? I kind of feel like they might have given you a little more.
If you want the truth, neither.
Door number 3, I like it.
Like, do you need to be at 16 teams?
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you, you wouldn't have added UCF and Cincinnati at all, and maybe not Houston either. I think BYU has been the one program that has brought a lot to the table, and with all that they've got going on, I think they've been a worthy addition.
They were a worthy Power 5 profile, obviously, before they were in the Big 12 conference. I think just cut Houston some geographical slack. That's not even why I throw them out there, but yes, I agree with what you're saying.
Fair. Because if this would have happened backwards, these 4 schools we're talking about would have never been added. You would have said Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. Appreciate it. Like we're good now. You would have been at whatever. You would have been this bloated 16-team league, and maybe you would have expanded a little bit. Maybe you could have talked yourself into BYU and Houston. But yeah, honestly, neither. And like what's funny about UCF is they were benefiting at the time to having a big school, and they were rolling football wise at the time when you added them. They were pretty on par. But like, what if we go back to 4 or 5 years ago and South Florida was doing what they're doing right now and UCF was doing what they're doing right now? Would you have had USF in the league instead of UCF? Maybe.
I don't know all the logistics of alumni stuff like that, but USF, am I not wrong that they were like a top 5 team a while back? Where they had some crazy ranking, I thought, at one point a decade or so ago.
Yeah, when Jim Leavitt was there, they had a point where they were rolling, and then they just kind of it didn't go well. And this is when UCF was doing crazy things. And
that's partly why, Chris, we say, like, while it does matter and is extremely important to make you relevant, a season record here or there does not make an institution's profile for a conference or an athletic department's profile for a conference.
Do you matter? Yeah. Do people care? Like, do people feel some kind of way about you when your name gets brought up or written or whatever? And I think with a lot of these programs, they do with BYU, and that should tell you all you need to know. Yes, there is the national following, and they've been able to back it up, but people feel something about BYU when they're brought up, and that's where it's at.
Thank you for that question. Derek asking about us versus Oregon State in the trenches. How's it going to work out? Which side do you think is in for a stouter test?
Oh, I would say that I guess I'm mostly curious to see like stouter test. I don't know if if you forced me to choose maybe their defensive line versus your offensive line, but I think there are folks around Corvallis that are very concerned about their offensive line versus your defensive line. And I haven't really seen that thought process out there about the opposite. So we'll just go with that. But
could we make it 12 false starts this week? Dan's gonna have something to do with that, I think.
I mean, if you're having 6 of them at home and the home crowd's booing you, what is 60,000 plus at Jones AT&T? What's going on there? So
the home crowd's rattling their own guys. You got it all backwards.
And I watched that game, Calvin. I think you did too. And it wasn't a giant home crowd.
No.
Yeah, it was hey, let's just go sit up there so I can spread out kind of day.
Sure. Not a lot of wind in their sails right now.
Yeah, and what's crazy is we'll that's unless something changes, that's where we'll be next year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this question here, we had Charles, Peyton, Asher, and Rick all asking about Tristan Gentry. More sightings coming up this weekend, and do you think he's better suited in the return game, one or the other, on a kickoff or as a punt return man?
Yeah, I don't think he got any reps or returns, I should say, as a kickoff returner in the second game. I mean, I think that he can do either, but right now I think we've seen maybe some more flashes as a punt returner.
Yeah.
But I if he keeps this up, I think he's like earned himself a role going forward here. Unless you want to push the Jacoby Williams button in a specific situation, unless you want to push the Coy Aiken button, like, hey man, we just need to field it, because there's times for that. But if you're looking for a return, I mean, I think that he's certainly starting to prove some of that. We just no more crimes against the family, man. Remember, worship. Let him go. No hold. Just let him go.
We did have a mobster responding to that comment on an episode earlier in the week regarding the worshiping aspect. Maybe he felt like making you look a little guiltier in that just got to act casual. No, I'm just strolling by.
Hands up. That's the only reason I use the worship thing. That's how Joey them coach it. That's exactly the term that they use. That's how they coach it.
I'm thinking you might even whistle or something.
Yeah,
twiddle your thumbs. I don't know.
Nothing to see here.
Do whatever a kid does when they're guilty. Tell your parents you love them for no reason. This question here from Brent, Paul, and Jay, all asking about Cole Wisniewski. Today's episode brought to you by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP, Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. And just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. This week for Texas Tech, it was the QB, Baron Morton, 16 for 18, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, only 1 hyperextended limb. You can't ask for much more than that. And just like Baron Morton delivered for the Red Raiders, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. And DoorDash Streaks, that's going to help you save every Saturday you order, so you can stack it up all season long and wind up saving up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and keep the winning alive by fueling your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promotional period through November 18th. Cole Wisniewski. Lightly registered statistically so far. How do we feel about him? I know we don't all want the safety racking up all the tackles, I guess, but what do you think?
They haven't gotten any opportunities here. I mean, this is like,
They're too hungry up front.
I think that Wisniewski and BJ, I think they're excited about this week just because of maybe a bit of more of a challenge and some more work. Not that they've been bored, not that anybody's like not happy that you're winning, but I think that's the direct correlation into that. These first two teams have had a hard time just dropping back, much less complete a pass, much less attempt to pass. And so, yeah, not a lot of work coming either one of those guys' ways, but Cole specifically. And he hasn't been able to get involved in the run game either because it's the plays made before he gets there. So again, these are really good problems to have. I mean, I hope that we don't call Cole Wisniewski's name hardly at all this year. I just know what the young man is capable of, and it's just crazy looking at him after following this program for so many years that he's like 6'4", 220, and he's a safety. I mean, that just shows you kind of what they have put together here for this team.
God, how many tackles did like Cody Davis have in some of those years? Oh, and indicative of what wasn't happening up front, I guess.
Deshaun Johnson is one of the best open field tacklers I've ever seen, and certainly one of the best that's come through here. And I tell him all the time, like, I hate that I know that about you.
Too often, yeah.
Yes, because he was like
defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
the only line of defense.
Yeah, when your safety's like getting 10 or 11 tackles, that is not good.
Yeah,
not good.
That's a red flag. Bill is asking, after 2 games, which transfers have delivered the highest return on investment, in your opinion?
Reggie Virgil's been good. I think Howard Sampson's been good. I think your defensive line in its entirety has been good.
I like the new law firm of Hunter Holmes, Gil Howard.
On the thick six.
Yeah, that we saw now. I need a new law firm since we lost the 3 guys. We lost one of the 3, I guess, or 2.
Yeah, no, I'm all about it. Yeah, it's funny because is there anybody that you? I mean, I think Terrence Carter's had his moments. I just think we're still not there yet to where you can like make any too many statements yet, because that means like Skylar Grow-Howard, he wins Defensive Player of the Week last week of the Big 12. He played 17 snaps. 17. I mean, yep. That's extremely efficient. But I just think a lot of the guys, like, I mean, what does this look like in the third quarter, the fourth quarter? Who's going to make a play for you to win a game? That's when some of these guys may show up. I mean. Oh, yeah. We may remember Cole Wisniewski's name for years to come if he picks off somebody in the second half late in one of these games on the road, and you're like, and that's what seals it, and all those kinds of things. But they just haven't had any opportunities yet.
Tyler asking about, outside of a win, anything you're focusing in on to pay attention to this game regarding the team's performance?
Yeah, your short yardage stuff. I want to see how you operate in the red zone. I want to see, what it looks like if you go for it on 4th and short. These situations may not pop up. I also am still monitoring, I think, the kicking situation. I want to see, and if for example, if Romelo or Ben don't play, like who earns the nod there? Like for Height, is that Terrell Tillman? Is that Cheto Ofili? I think Charles Esters is not going to play this week. So what does that look like if he does sit out and not play? But if Ben doesn't play, do you move Ben Curry over back into one of those interior linebacker spots, and you move A.J. McCarty to star? And then who backs up A.J. McCarty at star? I mean, you see what I'm saying? So those are some of the things that I would be looking at as we're getting into this deal.
Man, I got to tell you, I still, just watching defensively a lot of times through a set of binoculars and kind of focusing in first on the defensive line. Every once in a while, I'll just see a guy out there that I know is not Height or Bailey, and I'm thinking, who is that? And it's an Ofili, or it's a Terrell Tillman, or some of these guys, or even a Spencer, kind of like in the wings that have been not discussed much this offseason for obvious reasons. But, look, Height and Bailey are going to need a breath every once in a while. And I'm kind of excited to see some of those others mix it up as well. Chris, here's a question from Tammy. Do we know yet about Amir Boyd playing or not this weekend? She knows it's handled internally, but do we have a feel externally?
Well, he wasn't like in that. This is where you get into some semantics here, but he wasn't on the availability report. Okay. Which typically is dealing with injury, but it does say availability. And so I would guess that if you're suspended or if you are out, it would say that. But his name is not listed. So I'm going to guess that this was either handled or it's like, hey, dude, you're not going to play in the second quarter. And I would have told you anyways that because Mo Horn is also listed questionable again, and he was out last week. I would have told you that Dante Balfour and Bryce Pollock were going to be the starters at corner anyways, if both were healthy, and it appears that they are. So I guess stay tuned on Amir Boyd, I guess. But
all right.
But I don't gather that there's some problem there. Just a bunch of donuts, not the glazed kind.
Yep. Alrighty. Marvin.
Oh, your go-to
Joey,
donut shop. What's your go-to, Calvin, at the donut shop? You walk in, you can make one purchase. All the pastries are staring at you. What's the go-to?
Just the all-American classic glaze, baby. I am a sentimental, traditional man.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to beat. Hard to beat that.
Now, I'll dabble elsewhere in the box when the glazed is gone. But if I could only pick one, I'm fine with just going straight to the glazed. Lisa, Marvin, and Joey asking about Adam Hill in week 3. Could his role increase, lessen, stay the same? Any changes, you think?
Yeah, well, I bet it does change. I just don't know if we know what that looks like yet. I mean, I think Cam and Jacoby will still get the bulk, but if they get pulled at halftime, then Adam would have a same as or increased role. But I do think you are, I think maybe tilting toward incorporating him a bit more. I think he's earned that. I don't know if I know what that looks like, though, yet. I don't know if I know we're committed to letting him rep every third or fourth series or something. I don't know if you're there yet, but I think that I will say this. His stock is higher than it was, and it wasn't never low. I just think that you may be looking for reasons to hand him the football, maybe more so now than you were before. But is that in place of Jacoby or Cam? I'm not certain yet, but maybe. How's that for an answer? I feel like I just
like
talked
that.
About, yeah, but
I like that.
Yeah. Adam downhill.
It also depends on the context of the game, like we've already touched on.
Very much so.
Are you in tight moments? Do you have some garbage time to kind of work with, or what does that actually look like? Brian is asking this question. Brian says he is a longtime RedRaidersports.com writer, has enjoyed the move to On3 and the additions that have been made since. It seems like there have been quite a few additions to that network since that change was made. He's asking about something he's hearing about the Field of 68 platform and the On3 network. Is there fire to any smoke?
I think that's a smart guess. Yes, I think that I think you're onto something there. Yeah.
Smoke them if you got them, boys.
That's well done. Yeah, I mean, On3 doesn't really have any basketball coverage nationally, but the Field of 68 guys, I mean, that's Rob Doster, that's Jeff Goodman, that is a variety of John Fanta, all those guys that they cover at 365 really, and they've kind of built up something, but I think you could be onto something there, maybe sooner than later. How about that?
I forget. Do we like Goodman now? It seemed like always we're rounding.
He's fine. He elicits an opinion. I think he was pro Chris Beard, but he was also pro Mark Adams. I think that he's pro Grant McCaslin.
How could you not be, Jeff?
Exactly. So, but
all right.
Yeah, Rob Doster, the other guy, he's very pro Grant McCaslin too. So
familiar with his work in a Fanta, of course. Yes. Entertaining guy. All right. Thank you for that question. This is a popular subject as well. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Probably did. Sorry about you. Hayden, Chris, Kathy, Mason, David, Chase, Roberto, all asking about visits elsewhere for guys like LaDamian Guyton, Hackett, and others. Causes for concern, confidence level readings, Chris, is what they're asking about. To hear the answer to that question, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider.
And I would like to talk about different visits incoming as well that are just happening and all that. So, yeah, there's movement. There's movement.
Wait, I thought when the season was going on and all these prizes have stacked up, they just kind of took a break for a little while. You're saying there's still stuff ongoing as far as potential prizes?
As early as this weekend.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned for that or become a Matador Mob insider. So you can hit the show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial for those on the outside, this is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss a thing. You got me all shook up, Chris. And become a Matador Mobster today for less than a cup of coffee a month so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. We hope to see you back for the next round. Chris, on to the OT.
Bang, bang. Hope to see you at the stadium on Saturday, people. Been 3 great weekends in a row, and been fun to experience it all with, Calvin and I have been there, and it's been good. So hope to see you there. And we'll talk to you next time. Maybe in like 20 seconds if you just hang with us.
That's right. Thank you to the everydayers for always riding along. Thank you to the Matador Mob, and thank you for the time. And as always, we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.